want. Just gotta be like, yeah, so look in between heads.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Manchester, for those of you who have come from further afield. And if you're from the region, welcome to ITV Granada. Welcome to the Creative Access Creative Industry Showcase. My name's Sunny Hanley, and I am the director of the ITV Academy, which we are in partnership with Creative Access. And just a massive hello and welcome to you all. And today we're going to have a fantastic panel event with some amazing speakers who are experts in their field, and their field is themselves, as I've just been telling them. Just some quick housekeeping before we start though. So we've got, if anybody needs a toilet, they're just out there on the right-hand side. There's no smoking or vaping in the building, even on the outside on the balcony, so you'd have to go outside the building if you need to smoke or vape. And we are not expecting a fire drill, so if you hear a fire alarm, then run. You can follow me out of the building. So we're going to have a fantastic panel event. We've got time at the end for Q&A, so get your questions ready for these bright, amazing people who have got amazing and inspiring stories about how they got into the industry. As I mentioned, I'm from the ITV Academy, which is a brand new thing, started in February of this year. And what we do is we launch initiatives and schemes to help people get into the creative industry as well, specifically into ITV. So I'll be around later if you want to ask me any more questions. I've got a team of people behind me. I've got Fiona at the back there taking pictures. She's our head of partnerships. And we have lovely Laura here, who's head of production early careers, so a very good person to know. What else do I need to tell you? Probably nothing. I don't want to waste your time because you've probably come to hear these people rather than me. In fact, I haven't even got my picture on the screen, so that's how unimportant I am. But before we get to these lovely people, what I want to do is show you what ITV does best.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a contender.
Hey, Queen!
Guess who's back?
Come with a more modern approach.
I love that.
A room full of at least half-decent people.
Really?
Je pense qu'on devrait pouvoir se débrouiller.
Let's take it to the next level.
That's why I'm here. We hit the big time. We all have a lot to look forward to.
Nice, isn't it?
I know what it's like to be different.
I knew I was sexy!
Leave it to Nolly. You're wonderful.
It's all compelling evidence.
I tell truth.
Welcome to a brand new season of Love Island.
I will get the job done. That's my modus operandi.
Do not let anything get in your way.
To go to sleep whenever you're next to me.
You've just become my front runner.
Whoa.
Join the queue.
The friendships we've made, the greatest thing.
I am unstoppable.
There's a bright future ahead.
It's perfect.
Loving it. We're going to make the most of it.
Best episode ever.
Brilliant.
Lovely, thank you. That was brilliant. Welcome, everyone. Great to have you all here tonight, and thank you, Sunny, and big shout out to Fiona for all her help organising this event tonight. So my name's Yasmin. I'm acting head of programmes at Creative Access, and I'm also joined today by a couple of colleagues, Bibby and Poppy, if you want to give a quick wave. So thank you so much for joining our Creative Industry Showcase today. I'll be chairing the event, and we've got a really brilliant panel of speakers spanning roles in TV, marketing, publishing, and PR, all of whom are based in the area. So we're going to have a bit of a discussion for 45 minutes or so about their career pathways, top tips, guidance for navigating careers in the creative sector. Then there'll be the chance for audience questions, and thank you so much to any of you who have submitted some questions in advance. I've done my best to incorporate them into the conversation. So I'm going to pass over to the speakers to introduce themselves shortly, but just want to do a bit of a poll of the room. So it would be great if you could put your hand up if you're currently a university student or studying. Okay. Could you put your hand up if you are actively looking for a role in the creative industries? Okay, that's most people. And maybe put your hand up if you are already working in the creative industries. Yeah, okay. Have I missed anyone out? Hopefully not. I'd encourage you all to, introduce yourself to each other in the networking after the discussion today. But without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Jam to begin.
Hello guys, first of all there was no news on that sizzle reel, so we'll have to get that. I'm Jamal Williams-Thomas, I also go by Jam, if you know me, and I'm a reporter and camera operator for ITV News Granada, which is this region's version of ITV News, and the best region.
Hi guys, I'm Thomas. I'm a senior PR manager at City Press. We're an employee-owned PR and comms agency headquartered here in Manchester. We've got offices across the UK. Work with some of the biggest brands in the UK, from the likes of Aldi, Lloyds Bank, Primark, Coca-Cola, Centrica, British Gas, and help them with their comms and press office activity. I've been in the industry about 7 years now after graduating from university here in Manchester, and it's just great to see so many people. There was nothing like this when I was at university, so it's great to see.
My name's Tierney Whitty. I'm a non-fiction book editor at the Iran Publishing Group, part of the Hachette Group, which is the second biggest publishing group in the UK. I primarily work for our 7,000 trapeze imprints on sport and politics. They're my two main areas. My list of authors includes the likes of Andy Burnham and Steve Rotherham, mayors of Manchester and Liverpool, sports journalist Miguel Delaney, Guillaume Balaguer, Jonathan Wilson, and I've worked on books from the likes of Ronnie O'Sullivan, Beth Mead, Harry Bikers, Ryland Clark, mainly celebrity publishing. I've been working in publishing for about 3 years now, and I got into the industry, I was saying this feels quite full circle for me because I got into the industry through Creative Access, so it's quite nice to now be coming back and doing the other side of things.
Hi guys, I'm Mal Yoon. I'm currently marketing officer at the University of Salford, and I market undergraduate and postgraduate courses for the School of Science, Engineering and Environment. My day-to-day kind of consists of, I'm not going to drop that thing. My day-to-day responsibilities include things like video planning, photography planning, paid social campaigns, paid search, Google search campaigns, and also helping out with events, planning and attending events like open days and offer holder days, and also just liaising with students and academics to get stories. Like Tierney, I also started my marketing career through Creative Access with a marketing internship, and I moved on to higher education.
Hello everyone, I'm Abdul. I actually work here at Coronation Street, and I'm a support engineer here. Just 3 years into my career here, I went to Salford University, and I'm part of a team of 10 of us. And what does a support engineer do here? Apart from tea drinking, no, we support the filming. So if something happens, if we can't film for any reason, like a camera's gone down or anything like that, it's like a reactive role. So you have to just be available on hand and just kind of have knowledge of the local system and be able to get things running as quick as possible. It's a great place to work, like a family-oriented place, and it's probably the best place I've worked anyway.
And just a little bit about me. So obviously I'm head of programs at Creative Access, but I also have a background in the creative industry. So I graduated with a music degree back in 2014, got my first role through Creative Access at the London Symphony Orchestra, which is an orchestra in London. Then worked in the classical music industry up until 2020, then moved kind of more into the event space. So worked for the Barbican Centre as Schools Engagement Manager before moving to Creative Access 2.5 years ago, and now oversee all of our events like this and training for individuals who are kind of looking to get that foot in the door in the creative sector and those who are working in it and looking to progress to the next step. So with that in mind, I'm going to start with some questions. So thinking about your own career journeys, I'd just love to hear a bit more about how you decided the creative industries were for you and how you got your first opportunity. And Tierney, I'm going to come to you first.
Great. I'm not going to lie to anyone here, creative industries for me wasn't my dream. It wasn't something I always wanted to do. It was never like the plan. It was never like, oh my God, that's it. I'd never heard of publishing. I'd never heard of many of the creative industries. Being from Merseyside, it's just not something that you grow up with. I was actually doing my masters during COVID because I had fuck all else to do. And I, at the time, was going to do my application to do my PGCE to be a teacher. And my partner was like, do you really want to be a teacher? And I was like, absolutely not. Why am I doing that? And so she actually suggested, like, I've always been into books. I've always loved reading. And so she suggested, why don't you look into, there's got to be like some sort of business behind it. Why don't you look into that? And so I spoke to a careers officer at the Uni of Liverpool, and they recommended Creative Access to me. And so my first step was actually, I watched the masterclass that they did back in 2019, 2020, with Stephen Page, who's the CEO of Faber and Faber, one of the largest indie publishers in the UK. And that's when I went, I'll do that. That sounds cool. I then got onto another Creative Access program, which is a mentoring program they started with Penguin Random House, where I got paired with someone who worked in the publishing industry to give you like a 6-month crash course. And it was the most incredible, brilliant experience I could have done during lockdown. I had no experience in the publishing industry, no knowledge of it. And I went from having absolutely nothing to a job within 6 months, because whilst I was doing that mentoring program, my mentor was like, why don't you do some applications and I'll give you feedback on them. And I was very grateful that one of them was a trainee program with Hachette UK, who own Orion, where I am now. And one thing's just led to another. And I've been here for 3 years, and I've gone from internship to editor in the non-fiction team, and it's a great ride. It's very much recommend it.
I think that just shows off the importance of having a mentor.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking a bit later about a mentoring scheme that we have open with ITV at the moment, which you can all apply for. But Malian, I'd love to hear a bit more about your kind of journey into the creative industries as well.
So I always wanted to work in the creative industries. So I kind of studied English literature and language, and then I really, really wanted to become a journalist ever since I was a teenager. So after I graduated, I decided to start a National Training of Journalist Diploma at Manchester, but I didn't really enjoy it, and I quickly realised it wasn't for me. I never even thought of a career in marketing. I think I just looked at the job description on the Creative Access website when I first started it, and I was like, oh, like all this sounds interesting because I can get involved in a lot of different things. The job description was just basically, training on things like softwares like Photoshop and InDesign and things like admin, focusing on things like working with different departments, and I kind of enjoyed that kind of stuff, which is why I got into marketing, and I just kind of stayed there, and I really want to progress and be able to develop my career further, so I just stayed within that.
Great. And then moving on to Tom. So I read in your bio that you used to be a competitive swimmer. So I'm really interested in hearing kind of how you went from maybe swimming to working in PR.
Yeah, it's not a bridge you would normally draw, is it? So I, throughout basically my younger years of school and college, I swam for Great Britain. So I was a British junior swimmer. I was British junior champion when I was 16, European junior champion when I was 17, kind of like travelled the world swimming. Didn't quite make the kind of step up to pro. I always say that I enjoy alcohol too much, and that's why it didn't really happen. So then I kind of fell into I need a job and I need a career pathway. And my parents had always said, you need to go to college, you need to go to university, and that was kind of like the kind of route that everybody kind of goes down. I think I have an argument against that now. I think there's more opportunities with like apprenticeships and everything that you can get into as opposed to going to university. Maybe we'll get into that a bit later. I did history and politics at Manchester, purely on the basis that I enjoyed it at A-level, but I've always kind of had an interest in like current affairs and like the news agenda and being a bit of a nosy Parker, to be honest. Left uni, applied for loads of grad jobs, did the usual thing, got nowhere. I then applied for a job as a bookkeeper, and the bookshop had like a really small publishing house, funnily enough, upstairs. It was like trains and transport, really niche. And I think at that point I just kind of, it all clicked as to like, I like writing, I like reading, I would like to enjoy a career into this pathway. Found public relations and comms, applied for like an assistant account exec job in that in a small agency outside of Manchester, and then I've kind of just grown and gradually gone through there. But I think I probably don't want to speak for everyone here, but I feel like there's not like a natural route into the creative industry. Like if you want to become a lawyer or an accountant or anything, you kind of, it's like here's the 10-year plan from when you're 18 and everything's groovy. Like I feel like everybody comes in at like different levels.
And in your career, who are some of the brands that you've worked with?
So I'm fortunate at City Press, we work with some of the biggest brands in the UK. So like briefs for British Gas, they're owned by Centrica, a big corporate utility firm, Coca-Cola, Primark, Aldi, Siemens. So I think, you know, comms really does allow you to work with some of those kind of like big brands and try and get people like this guy to cover your stories.
Well, that segues quite nicely onto you. So we were talking before the panel started, and you said that you'd been kind of in TV since you were 15. So I'd love to just hear a bit more about your route in, because I think it was slightly different maybe to some of the people we've already heard from.
Well, similar to what you're saying, Tom. I think back then it was a totally different landscape in terms of how you'd get into the industry. I think now there's things like this, which is absolutely brilliant. There's more kind of mentoring going on, whereas back then it was kind of like sink or swim, essentially. So I started like so when I was 15. I just spoke to people. I started a community group near me in Old Trafford, if any of you know the area, but Old Trafford is just not the stadium. I'm a City fan. Just over that place somewhere, but there's a community group there, and they dealt with cameras and things like that, and media in general. So I went there, so I like honed the craft for a bit there, went to BBC for a bit. Whilst I was there, whilst I had that golden BBC pass that let you into the building, before it was here, it was actually in the middle of Manchester years and years ago. So use that pass, go in and just speak to everyone. Everyone that walked past me in the hallway, what is it you do? What is it you do? What is it you do? And you just, that's the way to kind of, I don't know, just create opportunities for yourself, I think. So started doing that, got onto Shameless. I don't know if everyone here knows what Shameless is. Worked on that for a bit as a camera trainee, because at that point I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. So I started off in drama, did all that, went to children's at BBC for a bit. It was all right. It was good. It wasn't my thing, but it was good. Then went to Salford Uni for 3 years whilst working at the same time. And then a position came up at ITV the following year. And that was 9.5 years ago, and I'm still there as a camera operator / reporter. So, yeah, that's the kind of route in. It was just all about talking to people and making sure people knew what it is that you do and putting your work up on YouTube and all the rest of it and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's all about the networking, really.
And you have this dual role of kind of camera operator and on-screen journalist. So what does that look like? Like, what's a typical day-to-day for you?
God, where do I start? So you get given an assign, whether it be in the morning of or the night before. And with me, because I'm a camera operator first and foremost, and that was what I did first, I never get a camera operator with me at any job. It's like, you can self-shoot that. Like, you've got the good camera, whatever. So I have to kind of work that into the timing of the job. Because if I have to get back and edit that for that night's programme, I can't be messing about chatting to people. I talk a lot. I can't be messing about talking to people on the job. I have to just shoot the stuff and get out of there. No cups of tea, no nothing. Shoot, get out. Because it takes that much longer. If you go in with a camera operator, they can set up stuff whilst you talk to, you know, the contributors. But if you're doing both, you know what I mean, it's just a bit more time. So that's what I'll do. I'll shoot the stuff myself. I'll go back to the office. I'll script it, put all the footage in the system, and edit it most of the time for that night's programme. So that's a 6 p.m. That's 5:30 deadline. So yeah, that's a day in the life, very roughly.
Brilliant. And Abdul, you work in quite a technical role, so I'm interested in hearing a bit more about your route in and kind of, what are some of the issues that can stop filming at Corrie?
Quite a lot, actually. No, but I've done kind of more of a traditional route into it, so uni and so on like that, but I wasn't always planning to go to uni. I didn't even know the jobs that I've done so far in the 9 years that I've graduated since even existed, because I wasn't kind of exposed to that kind of industry from my background. I was working for a year after I finished college, and my mate just said, hey, you might like this degree at Salford, why don't you apply for it? And I thought, I miss it a little bit, I miss being out of the student life and whatnot, wanted to go to uni. Applied, got the role, or got into the uni course that is, and did a 3-year course called Media Technology. And in that course, it kind of gives you pathways into lots of areas, like you could go into audio, you could go into camera work, you could go into the roles I'm doing now, and you could also go into like directing. So a lot of the people that I graduated with are doing different kind of roles, like some are doing camera work, some are doing gigs on like touring the world as a sound engineer, some people are doing directing and productions, like producers and so on, and there's people like me who work in like MCRs. I don't know if you know what that is, like a master control room where you look at all the video feeds coming in from like events and so on and just make sure they're passable to television and so on. But yeah, went into uni, I did a 3-year course and graduated, and it was kind of like getting onto LinkedIn as soon as possible and just marketing yourself and putting yourself with an updated CV, and if you know kind of like the career pathway you want to go to, you kind of like just market yourself as much as possible into that kind of role. All the knowledge you have, even if you don't have experience, you can just put like the stuff you've learnt in uni, just say, this is what I know, this is what I can do. And if you can do anything with your uni, kind of like just on the side as experience, it's always great to do. Recruiters just kind of like reached out to you, so I don't know if anyone is in a technical background. There's stuff like Christie Media, Caspian One, and like a website called Grapevine Jobs, and they always post lots of stuff, and always looking for like, you know, entry-level people to come into certain companies. So if like on LinkedIn, just find people, recruiters for just the companies you're looking at maybe, and it's always a good thing just to like connect with them, even send them a message and be like, hey, if anything comes up, here's me, with an updated CV and a cover letter that's kind of like specific to that kind of role. So I applied for a few roles and eventually got a role in Leeds. So I was called a system integrator, and I helped kind of like build facilities like this at Coronation Street. So studios, galleries and outside broadcast vehicles. And that was quite fast-paced, learning on the job kind of thing. So exposed to lots of different manufacturers, companies and people in the industry. Worked all over like in Africa and France and stuff like that, quite young, doing lots of hours. So I was kind of burnt out. I left there and went somewhere in Preston and worked for a company called ADI, who's quite student-friendly, or people that just kind of get into the industry. If you like do editing, if you want to do directing or production kind of roles or any like technical stuff, they do like to take on a lot of students or people that are just kind of like into the industry kind of entry-level wise, freelance-wise. In that kind of role, I was looking after football, so I was kind of paid to watch football. But we're looking at it in a technical role, so make sure feeds were coming into us fine and recording fine, and then the feeds we were sending out, making sure they're all okay as well. And then eventually, I looked around on the job market and thought, let's see what's around. I saw ITV Careers, and I think it was like the first time in 10 years they were recruiting for an engineer at ITV, and I applied for it. Didn't hear anything for like a month, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, come down for an assessment, like a group assessment, so like 20 people and so on. And we had to do a group assessment, made it through the stages and did like a interview after that point, and then got the job. And then 3 years on since I've been here, I started literally the year of COVID, so I was like, ooh, am I going to be made redundant? I don't know. Thankfully not. ITV's looked after us quite well through COVID, and they're actually a very good company to work for, probably the best company I've worked for. They've got the resources, the people, you know, to like help you progress in your career. And even like the role that I'm doing now, if I didn't want to do it, they've got the resources for you to like, you know, venture out into other areas if you just fancy something else. But yeah, I'm here now and working here 3 years and I'm enjoying it. Just a question on like if something can stop filming. I was saying to Yasmin earlier, apart from me walking in front of the camera, sometimes there's like technical issues, like we have certain recorders or cables that could just go faulty. So a recorder could just have a hiccup. It stops recording and it's throwing lots of errors, and it's kind of like a running joke in technical, turn it on and off. And it is kind of that, so you just give the server a reboot, but it's a bit more technical than that, but in this short kind of way of saying it. You give it a reboot, you give it 10 minutes, everyone goes for a cup of tea and comes back and starts filming again and does some test records. But yeah, that's kind of my journey into it and what I'm doing currently.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think it's interesting to hear you all have kind of slightly different routes in and very different range of jobs on show here. But thinking about kind of TV and publishing in specifically, I know those sectors often have a kind of, they're notoriously difficult to get into. So Tierney, I was just wondering, like, what advice would you give to people in this room who are looking to break into the publishing industry but maybe struggling to get that first opportunity?
Yeah, I think publishing is very difficult. Entry-level jobs in publishing typically have over 1,000 applicants per entry-level role. Like, it is so competitive, and it's also very London-centric. Apart from Hachette, who I work for, there's no other big publishing company with offices outside of London. So if you want to work in publishing, you have to go to London. It's changing. You know, as I say, Hachette have just opened 5 regional offices all around the country. Other publishers are starting to do the same, and it is changing, but it's slow. I'd say the main advice I'd give is one, as we were saying earlier, just network with absolutely everyone. For some reason, LinkedIn, like publishing is not on LinkedIn, it's on Twitter. So if you want to get in publishing, get Twitter, speak to other assistants, speak to other, hiring managers. Every publishing house will have a careers page on Twitter. Follow them, sign up for alerts, and just speak to as many people as you can. I said to everyone here before, funnily enough, the person that mentored me at Creative Access used to be an assistant with my current boss, and I had no experience coming into the industry, but because I knew, like, my mentor was one of my references, my hiring manager or my current manager was like, oh, well, like, I know who mentored you, and it stood out to me. And unfortunately, like, that's not the best way, but it is unfortunately just how the industry works. Like, name recognition is so key because it's just small industry. Well, not small industry, there's only so many people that work in it. So I'd say that's the main thing. I think also most people who want to work in publishing want to be an editor. Like, that is the primary thing people want to do. They want to edit books, they love books, they want to work with authors on creating books, but don't be turned off to other entry-level roles. Like, we have contracts teams, marketing teams, publicity teams, sales teams, design and art teams, like legal teams. Like, we have everything because you have to. And a lot of the best editors I know have come into the industry through other pathways, and you might find that actually you want to work in one of these other areas as well in a publishing house. Like, you might not want to, you might think you want to be an editor, but when you get that route into, say, marketing, you might actually go, oh, this is great. And a lot of those other ways in can sometimes be a little bit easier to get into. So don't just look at one, say, like, area, look at others as well. I'd say they're the best ways in.
Yeah, great advice there. And I think equally, Jamal, Abdul, like, thinking about TV, what would you recommend for people that are looking to get their first role? I'll come to you first.
Not too dissimilar from what Tierney said. I think, the number one thing is just having the confidence to speak to people. And I know it's not always easy, and sometimes, a lot of creatives are quite, kind of withdrawn and don't really do all that stuff. But it's essential, really. Or if not, again, Twitter's a good tool, like we were saying, or whatever it's called now, X. And all that, it's a whole different conversation. But yeah, the number one thing, I mean, just a very quick anecdote. Somebody that, when I was probably, I won't tell you how old I am now, but I was 19 at the time, I think, possibly 20. And I got in touch with I started following a camera operator on Twitter, and I didn't message him or anything. I just followed him. He didn't follow me back, so I was like, oh, great. But I'm looking at all his stuff and his pictures. I'm thinking, I want that job one day. Anyway, so managed to get a freelance gig at the BBC doing the Children in Need thing. And there's a guy on the jib camera, and I get called over. Oh, Jan, this is Keith. I was like, oh, that's familiar. It's the guy on Twitter. And I was like, oh. I said, are you called Keith, your camera dude, on Twitter? And he was like, yeah. They're kind of like looking a bit suspicious. Don't worry, I'm not weird. I follow you because I want your career, basically. And he goes, oh, do I follow you back? And he pulled his phone out. He goes, no, I don't. That's rude of me. Follows me back. Anyway, 2 weeks later, I messaged him. And we went for a pint in Media City, and he got me onto, I got the job with ITV a bit after that, so I didn't do it in the end, but he got me in touch with the Northwestern Art Camera Desk and said, tell them you know me, they'll give you some shifts. So he didn't have to do that. That was the first time he'd met me, really. He didn't have to do that, but he did. Anyway, years later, he needed the favour repaid, and I got him some work here at ITV. So it's always full circle with things like that. But yeah, going back to the tips, number one thing is talking to people and having your work ready at a moment's notice. You could be in the lift with somebody and you're over here and you say, oh, that sounds like something I could do with, here's my website, go on it, show reel on there. Have it ready there to go is one of my other pieces of advice.
Abdul, do you have anything to add to that?
There's also things like events, I think MPTS, it's like a media production technology show kind of thing that happens down south, and it's a good networking area, so you can just sign up, it's free to go for like students and non-professionals and whatnot. And there's, you know, manufacturers and people and recruiters and so on there, and you can just go and network with them. There's also like, I think they do like seminars and stuff for all sorts. So if you want to get into the technology side or that side, it's great, just sign up to things like that. Just look for kind of events, especially things like this now as well. Again, when I graduated, this kind of stuff wasn't available, but things like this is a great way to network. And yeah, there's... I had something in my head, it's gone. We'll move on.
But I think you've all picked up there on the kind of power of networking and building that network for yourself, and having a mentor. And that's something we do at Creative Access. We run mentoring schemes. As I said, our one with ITV is live at the moment. And I think Tierney mentioned kind of not necessarily going for editorial. And I think in TV as well, it's like thinking about other departments that might be lesser known that you could potentially apply for, and that be your route in, and thinking where your skills really align. So yeah, I think we also had a few questions in advance about kind of changing careers or moving from sector to sector. And Malian, I wanted to come to you because I think you mentioned when we met before that you kind of started out more publishing, journalism side, and now you're in marketing. So I just wondered if you could tell us a bit more about that journey.
Yeah. I think just moving across different areas, it wasn't that difficult if you really focus on like transferable skills. So I think I was able to showcase my skills in application, my cover letters, during interviews. And if you come across really enthusiastic and really like you want to learn in the interview, then you should be able to like move across different sectors. So I think that's like the main advice that I would give in the tip.
What would be a key transferable skill for kind of moving between the sectors you've worked in? Putting you on the spot.
Probably like communication skills and just being able to pick up a lot of different things. So fast learner and just being open to learning different things as well. If that comes across really well, then yeah, I think you're definitely like okay for that.
Brilliant. And I think tied to that, Tom, I wanted to ask, you know, a few people have submitted questions in advance asking, you know, what can they do to stand out in application? So thinking about the industry you're in, like what are you looking for in applications from people applying?
Yeah, experience is always the buzzword, isn't it? And like that's what used to get me. Like I'd leave uni and apply for all the jobs, and you know, I'd apply for a role that's like making the tea for the guy that's making the coffee, like proper entry-level role, and it's like you've got no experience for this role. Like, I'm really sorry, you're a great candidate in an interview, but we're going to go with somebody that's more experienced. Like, how do I get the experience? And I think that is kind of where I would start as well. Like now there's like so many more avenues to like blogging, vlogging, you know, do you do a podcast, like anything you can kind of do that showcases your skill set to be able to put in front of someone and say, you know, look, this is what I can do. It's almost like this is what I can do for my PR, my comms. Yeah. What can I, you know, I could help your business, I can help your brand, that kind of thing. So it is tough, and I agree the networking is massive. Like I think comms as an industry, there's a lot of like PR agencies or like communications agencies, social media agencies, that kind of thing. You know, and I probably, as an entry level, I'd probably look there as opposed to like going straight in with a brand, because I think you learn a lot more going in as an agency side, because I think it opens up more avenues. You get to work with a wide sector of people and different organisations. But yeah, I just think, you know, experience and networking is probably the big two things.
Mm. And I think it's really difficult when you're at entry level and you might not have that paid experience. So like, how can you build that up even more? Like, is there anything that people in this room could be doing now to get that experience?
It's tough, isn't it? I think just anything you can get your hands on, like, you know, can you write something that nobody's going to see, but you've written it, and it's just, you know, getting that experience that you're doing yourself. I remember I'm sad. I used to go to gigs and then review the gig and like you know, just scribble it down and just be like, oh, I enjoyed this, I enjoyed it. Just kind of, you know, you're building up that skill set of like being able to do it, because I think like naturally comms people are storytellers. Like there's a fine line between like a journalist and a PR man or woman, and I feel like, you know, there's those levels of just what you can do in your own spare time to be able to just have, like you said, ready to go to give to someone and say, look, you know, this is what I can do.
And Jam, if you were hiring someone, what would you be looking for?
Nice people.
It's true. It's so true.
Very nice people. No, I think someone who I think is taking the initiative to do their own thing. Sounds what you were saying. Like, I don't think it's sad you went to gigs and wrote reviews. I think I think basically, you know, just creating your own work. Like now, you know, when I was growing up, God. YouTube was just starting. Do you know, it wasn't really a thing. God, a long time ago, wasn't it? But now you've got YouTube, you've got loads of other video hosting services. You can put your stuff online for absolutely nothing. So, you know, people that make vlogs and stuff, it's a great way to have your work there on, you know, a digital portfolio. And like I say, if you're in a lift at one point, or you're anywhere at one point, and you hear, oh, he works for ITV. I'll just quickly, you've got your business card ready to go. Have you all got business cards? No? Oh, well, that's your task for tomorrow. Business cards with all your things on. Make a website. You can get a free website. You know what I mean? That's your digital kind of, you know, portfolio in a way. It's a digital CV. Get it all on there. Like, create a brand for yourself and say, well, this is what I do. This is, you know, if you're freelance, that's fine. Like, make yourself your brand, and just have stuff ready to go. Like, create your own work. Go out and shoot a documentary. What's stopping you? You know, good cameras are cheaper these days than they were. You know what I mean? You can get a decent, use your phone. You know, go and do a documentary, film a news piece, do it, but just have something ready to go so that people can look and say, okay, they're taking the initiative to their own thing, they really want this. They're not just kind of sat on their proverbial doing nothing. Do you know what I mean? So that's probably the number one thing I would say.
Great. And I think we can't really talk about applications without talking about rejection. I think it's something that everyone goes through. So Tierney, I wonder if you have any, or how have you dealt with job rejections in the past? Do you have any tips with people in the room?
I have to think back to when I was in uni for this, because obviously I've been at the company I'm at for 3 years, so it's like trying to recall. But after I got my job, I look back to how many jobs I'd applied to before I got this one. I was like over 150 rejections, and perseverance is so key. And even when you're in the job, perseverance is key, because you're gonna publish things that do terrible, or you're not going to quite get the marketing right on something and it won't sell. And because at the end of the day, it's a business, so you do have to obviously make money. It's the bottom line. And so I think just perseverance, always perseverance, and building that up now will stand you in good stead down the line. But always take on that feedback as well. Like if particularly in if you want to get into publishing with jobs, it won't just be an automated like no replies inbox that gets back to you. It will be someone, and you can ask them for, you know, feedback on your application. You can ask them, you know, what did I do differently? Like, what could I have done differently? You know, and that helps so much. As I said earlier as well, like I had a mentor who gave me all this feedback when I was writing applications, and I went from getting job rejections to then eventually getting interviews. And then when you start having those first few interviews, it's not long before you get a job. Like the difference between straight rejections on a laptop to actual interviews to then getting a job, the gap shortens so much, because you can present yourself to someone, you can be confident, you can be clear, you can show exactly why you're the person for that job. So just keep going. Like, it can take people years before they get into the industry they want to get to, but if you really do want to do it, don't give up, because eventually something will click, and before you know it, you'll get that step. And once you've got that first step clear, like you're in it, and that's all that matters.
Great advice there. So we've heard kind of about your roots about your advice for applications, and I'd love to hear a bit more about how you've all kind of stepped up in your own careers. So how did you go about progressing? I mean, Tom, I think you said you came in as account exec. Obviously, it's your senior account manager now. What has that journey looked like?
I would say, like, just being a sponge. Like, I'm full of buzzwords tonight, sorry. But like, I've gone like in comms you go very much from say like entry level account exec, and then you can work your way up to an account manager, and then you work your way up to that, and it goes and goes and goes. But I just think along the way you've just got to learn as much as you can. And like I see the grads that come in at our place now, and they're brilliant because they're just so wide open, and like they're willing to learn like every hour, every minute of the day. And I feel like that's the only way to progress. It goes back to your point about being a nice person. Like you've just got to you've got to come in and just be willing to do anything. You're here one day, you're there the next day, and I think that's the best way to go. I think in my career I've always taken bits from everybody that I've worked with. So like I like the way you wrote that, I'll have a little bit of that, I like the way you presented that, that'll do for me. And you just build yourself up from being like a person made up of a million people you've worked with. And I feel I'm at that position in my career now where I want to move up to kind of a director level and push on there. And I feel that I've been able to do that by adding bits of everybody that has been above me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Malian, I'm coming to you, similar question, like how have you gone about kind of progressing in your career? Like what are some of the key milestones that you've come across in your career so far?
I think just speaking up and asking to get involved in like big projects. So when I was starting out within my marketing career, and I was doing my internship, I was given like a big task of doing the catalogue, and that was a big design project that I worked on, and I was able to showcase that, and then I was able to progress onto marketing assistant. And if you don't really see progression within that organisation, I think it is important to think about yourself and start looking at other organisations and start applying for other companies and other like digital marketing agencies and things, which is what I did. So I think sometimes it's good to stay within your organisation to progress, but sometimes it's better to look out as well.
Yeah, I can echo that. I used to be worried. I jumped around quite a lot at the beginning of my career, and I used to be worried about, does it look bad about how many different organisations I work for? But what I've seen more and more frequently now is that, this idea of a squiggly career and moving around a lot more. So don't be worried about moving somewhere else if that's the only way for you to progress. So a couple more questions before we move on to the audience Q&A, but we've had a lovely question in advance from Neve, who asked, what's the most valuable piece of advice you've been given so far in your career? I'd love to get all of your thoughts on it, starting with you, Abdul.
I can't think of something now right now. There's not like any single piece of advice. It's more just like putting yourself out there and just being kind of like Tom said about being a sponge and just asking the right questions, and just doing things on the side, learning things at home, trying to do any extracurricular stuff that you can do, and just also like investing as much as you can into your education, because like if you are just starting out, that is kind of the first thing that people look at. So always aim high, kind of, and try and get the best possible results that you can get, because that's the first thing people are going to look at. And then again, after that, it's just kind of like marketing yourself in that specific role that you want to get into. Get as much details as you can about that role that you want to do, and just kind of like, make yourself that person that wants to be that role and put it out there to people. Also, again, just reach out to people. That's like, we've had like people come in and shadow, and just by contacting them through like an email or LinkedIn or something like that, and they've come in for a day and shadowed. So don't be afraid to like just reach out to people that you might follow like on a company or their LinkedIn and so on. And it just gets your name in there, and within that kind of like, that person came that day, they were really eager and quite good and smart, and you never know, something can just arise from that.
Great. And Malian, how about you? Any advice that you've been given in your career so far?
Advice I've been given? So I think when I was first starting out within my marketing career, my first ever manager, I think it's just like a thing with the trainees, and like when you're just first starting out, you have this pressure to work extra hours. And my first marketing manager said to me, like, don't work after you've finished and when you're supposed to clock out. And I think that stayed with me till now. It's so important not to burn out, and you won't feel productive the next day if you're working extra. So that's one thing I'd definitely say. That stayed with me, and I would want to give to you guys, like, don't tire yourself out, or you won't be productive.
I agree. Tierney?
That's something related, actually. But one of the best bits of advice I got given when I was a trainee was keep your enthusiasm for the creative industry that you're working in. There are so many brilliant entry level assistants that come into the industry, they get involved in everything, they do loads, and then after a year or two, they do just burn out and they quit because they're sick of it or they're tired or, like, you know, their mental health's in a bad place and they can't cope with it anymore. But really, like, you've got to remember why you came into this industry. Like please don't burn out, as Melanie said. Don't, like, it's horrible. No one wants to experience that. But remember why you came into this industry. Remember that love you had for TV, for publishing, for radio, whatever it is. Remember why you wanted to do it, and always keep that at the front of your mind as you're, you know, in a crap place and work's just so busy and you're working 12-hour days or whatever. Just keep reminding yourself, like, this is what I wanted to do. And again, it goes back to even with job rejections, like, keep at it and you will get there, and keep that enthusiasm for wanting to work in this industry, because they are fantastic industries to work in and they're great companies to work for, and you will get there. So yeah, just keep it.
I'm going to slightly reframe the question for Tom and Jamal, but I guess it's very similar. What would be your best piece of let me start again. What would be your best piece of advice for those starting out in the industry? So, Tom.
Probably goes back to what I was saying before, like, surrounding yourself with people that are better than you. I feel like that's the way that I've always learned. I've never been the best really at anything, swimming included, and I've always learned by, like, learning off people and, like, being around people that are better than me so I can get better. So, like, you know, any entry level role, it's just about being like, who's in this room that's going to make me better today, tomorrow, next week, next year. You know, like, we're very fortunate at City Press to have, like, a lot of ex-journalists like Daily Mail, ITN News. You know, we've got people with so much vast industry experience. Like, every day I'm just like, what about this angle? How do you think about that? And, you know, you're just, like, constantly learning. So I just think, like, yeah, I'll finish my buzzword evening with, like, every day is a school day. Do you know what I mean? Like, it really is. Like.
And finally, Jam.
Dress for the job you want. That's why I bought a North Face coat when I was 16. Everyone in the industry was wearing North Face at the time. Now it's not so much that case. No, I think my number one advice is probably jump in and worry about it later, within reason. But, you know, jump in. Don't feel... It's a difficult one because I don't want to say jump in and then you jump in too deep and then you're drowning. Do you know what I mean? But do jump in, try new things. It might, like I was saying before, it might not be the end game, but it's a step, and every step is a step at the end of the day. So I think for me, jump in, try different things. You know, don't be scared to try different opportunities that, again, might veer off to the side a bit, because you'll always come back in again at the end. And the more you veer to the side, the more bits of experience you collect along the way anyway. And that's what you said before about kind of like picking, you know, people that maybe work above you, you pick a load of different things from them, and then in the end you're like a meld of all of that together. I think that's a really good way of putting it, and that's probably good. When I went into the reporting side of things, I'll let you in on a secret, I just mimic every other reporter that I've seen that I've worked with for the past 10 years. So, you know, I've picked the best bits of all them and merged it in. So yeah, I'd say that's probably jump in, and yeah, don't be afraid to try new things, and yeah, do that. And be nice. Be nice. That was the number one thing. Take that away. Be nice.
All brilliant pieces of advice there. So we're going to move on to audience questions now. So I think we've got a couple of ITV staff who are going to come around with microphones. But if you could just say your name, maybe what you do before you say the question, and then if you're directing to your question to a specific person, please just say their name.
I think you'll be busy.
Shall I stand up? I'll stand up. Hello. Hi there, my name's Alice. I'm a researcher, and I'm hoping to step up to be an assistant producer. At the moment, we're in a bit of a quiet time in the industry. Have you got any advice on people who want to maybe step up in their field in a time of quietness?
Good question.
I think we throw it down that end.
I'm happy to go for it, because you have to. There's quite a lot in publishing. Like, you just take the initiative. Like, there are always gaps on your list that you can fill. There are always, you know, ideas that you can take forward, that you can work with. Like, we're actually coming to the end of our busy period in publishing. The autumn period, September, October, our busiest times of year. So November and December are kind of a chance for us to reset. You go again. You think your ideas. You develop your ideas. You approach authors. It is just or take extra training courses. You know, take the initiative. Do the job. Don't do the job that you're not paid to do. But look at what the job role above you is and go, what can I do that will help me get there? You know, if you need to take on managing extra clients, ask if you can, you know, if there's anyone who's left and, you know, let's say a brand partnership needs someone looking after, a volunteer to look after them, get that experience, you know, even if it's just part-time, so you have to hand over to the replacement, you know, just offer to do that little bit extra, so then when it comes to a performance review or whatever, you can go, actually, we can't give them a promotion because, you know, they've already been doing the job for 6 months. You know, why do we need to hire someone else? So it's just trying to look at what you can do extra to what you're already doing, I think, is it's just, you know, the best way to put it. Yeah.
Hi, good evening. My name is Twinkle. I actually have 2 questions, if that's okay. Right, so the first question is, and we did touch upon this a little bit, is it fairly easier to move within industry? So let's say if you're into public relations and then you want to become a journalist, or if you're a camera operative and then you want to become a journalist. So is it fairly easy to navigate that path? That's the first question. And the second question is, nowadays with job applications, there's this whole concept of I think it's called ATS, the tracking system. So even before a human can actually view your CV, it's a tracking system that checks whether your application has the correct keywords in it. Yeah. So my second question is, how do you identify those keywords in such a long job description? Because everything's different. So.
I'll go first. Did you say your name was Twinkle?
Yes, that is.
Oh, lovely name.
Thank you.
The first question, I think it depends. A lot of companies like ITV, dare I say, the Beeb, it's easier to move around because there's so much going on. And when it's internal, it's always easier, isn't it? Because they know you're an employee there. You're obviously an employee there for a reason. They like you most of the time. And it's easier to move around. But I think with, like, we were discussing before, weren't we? Like, journalists and PR kind of just go like that. So people do flip between the two. And I think during your time, say, using that as an example, during your time working out as a journalist or as somebody in PR, you're making those connections anyway, regardless, and you're working closely with people. So a lot of journalists do go over to the PR side, and that's what they've been working with PR people their whole career pretty much. So they already know a lot of people. It's a bit easier. Again, it's the networking, it's the knowing people, it's the name game kind of thing. So if that's the case, that I could phone some, I'm not saying I get a job straight away, I probably wouldn't because I couldn't do your job, but you know, I could phone someone in that industry that I know and that I've worked with close and say, oh, do you mind if I come in for a day and have a look? And that's it. Again, it's talking. That's the main thing. But
transferable skills as well. Like your point, you see it a lot from journalists going into PR. Mainly not the other way, but like but it's the transferable skills of like an eye for news and the story, and then just looking at it more from like a brand side as opposed to like just a news desk side. Which I think I said earlier, like it's great for people that aren't journalists like me that can kind of bounce off that like dark sides, as they call it. You do. But I think it's that transferable skills. I think that's massive. And I think, you know, as a creative industry, like we're all creatives, we all think in a relatively the same way. Do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't be, you know, if I wanted to move out of PR and work into kind of a publishing role or a production role or anything like that, I feel like I've got more chance of doing that as opposed to like taking a complete left field turn in my career.
So that's that second question.
That's tough, that.
That's really
I mean, you can. I would just say, like, if you're applying through Creative Access, it's always read by a human. So apply for roles through Creative Access. Also, I mean, if we're talking about buzzwords, they'll usually be found in the job description. So look at what the job description is asking for, because the person that does come, the human that does come to read that will be judging your application against the job description. So that would be the best way to kind of think about how to get past a computer. But I would say, I know Creative Access, it's all read by someone in our recruitment team.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Neve. I recently graduated and I'm looking to get into script development. Kind of touching on what's been said about rejection so far. Have you dealt with imposter syndrome during your career, and how did you manage it, particularly during the entry-level stages?
Still do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Massively. Like, I feel like sometimes I'll go into a meeting room with like senior executives of big businesses, and I'm like, I'm the child that is advising you on your comm strategy for the next 12 months. Imposter syndrome 101. But I feel like you've just got to back yourself. Like nobody else is going to back you other than you. And you know, if you believe in it and you believe in what you're doing, what you're saying, then just, you know, the door is going to open. It's as simple as that. I feel like the minute you start second guessing, questioning yourself, should I do it that way? Should I do it this way? You know, once you know, you know. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's the pep talk you've got to give yourself, however small or big that kind of project or that door is.
Yeah, I think similarly, like I'm from Merseyside, like I can count on one hand the amount of other people in Merseyside I know in the publishing industry. Like every single day I face imposter syndrome with my accent, how I speak and what you're doing. Like you have just got to back yourself. Like I'm 24 years old and I'm telling authors double my age how their book should be written, but you've just got to, you know, and like inside you how confident you are, and you've just got to constantly relay that and say this is a good idea because of X, Y and Z. Make sure you always have the evidence or the data to support your decisions and what you want to do, and keep that at the heart of everything, and the success will just follow and the decisions will just follow from that. Like don't worry about anything else.
When I do my day job as well, when I'm reporting, when I'm camera operating I look like this, I look scruffy as anything. When I'm reporting, obviously you've got to don the suit and all the rest of it. And it's not my natural thing. I don't really bother with that kind of thing. So when I am reporting, I don't feel like I'm a reporter. I just feel like, oh, I'm playing dress up, you know. And even now, after doing it for, don't say how long again, but doing it for a while, you know, you get the same thing. And I think it's like these guys say, you've got to back yourself. At the end of the day, you're in that job for a reason. You know, people don't hire people for fun, especially when there's so many applicants. So you're in that job for a reason, you know, you're in that placement for a reason, you're doing a work experience there for a reason. So you've got to remember that all the time. I know it's difficult and you know, it's easier said than done, but yeah, I think it's something that I've also had for a long time. But yeah, back yourself 100%.
Yeah, just adding to that as well, it's like imposter syndrome, like it even sometimes happens to me or my colleagues who have been in the industry like 20 years, they might just be like, I feel like an imposter today, but it doesn't just happen to people, just happen in their career, like, you know, early on. It can happen any time in your career. You just kind of, like I said, back yourself, look back on what you've achieved and like see how much you actually know and what you're actually capable of, because you sometimes forget that, just doing the same thing every day and kind of thing like that, or if a new challenge comes across, you're just like, oh damn. But yeah, if you just look back at your own career and what you've achieved, just back yourself in that way and you'll believe in yourself again.
Good question.
Yeah, very good question.
Hi, I'm Nora. That's a bit loud. I work as a project manager running the BFI Film Academies, but I want to make the leap to working in TV. Do you have any advice for when you're kind of partway up a ladder, but you need to start at the bottom again to progress without feeling like I'm competing against everyone who's just got out of uni and they're all like so eager, and I'm like this decrepit person trying to leap?
Be even more eager than them.
Just get with agencies. I think there's like Lifted Entertainment, is it? I think one of the people that they use here. Just get with agencies and put your name out there and just show your experience. I think they will overlook if you're a uni student or someone who's been here for that long. If you've got the credibilities, then they'll put you forward.
Thomas said before, it's transferable skills, isn't it? Like, and I don't think you need to necessarily look at the bottom. If you're halfway up ladder, there's probably a parallel role that you can apply for and go for that matches all the skill sets that you have. Like, don't discount yourself and don't think that you don't have the ability to do that mid-level role that you're already doing. Like, you probably can do that and transfer over quite naturally, better than you think.
I think it's that kind of industry. Once you're in it, you're in it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's quite hard to leave it, to be honest. It's like keep pulling you back. But yeah, I think once you're in it, you're in it. I think being in the position you're in, you must speak to a lot of filmmakers and things like that. Carry on speaking to them. Yeah. See if they know anybody in TV. I know a lot of people in film. I don't work in film, but I know a lot of people in film. Just naturally, and I talk too much. So that's, so I just chat to everyone. So I think, just use your own contacts. You must have tons of contacts where you can, again, you might not realise that they know someone in TV, but they probably do a lot of the time. So yeah, don't always think you have to look over there. It might be right next to you. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Sam. I'm a writer and director. Coming from a theatre background, I was just wondering what's the easiest way to transition from theatre to media. As a director, I know how to like direct actors, but I don't know how to work cameras. So I was just wondering what's the easiest route to kind of go into.
Transferable skills. Yeah. All comes down to that. Yeah, I think I want to answer because you said TV. So I think again, it's quite a natural path. I think to go from something like theatre into film or TV, it's quite a natural path. Again, it's just speaking to the right. I know it's like a bloody parrot tonight. It's just speaking to the right people. I think, and just again, don't look too far from where you are. You're in the industry, regardless. So don't look too far from where you are. Start speaking to people around you. I guarantee, probably about 5-6 people that you work with will know someone in the TV industry, know maybe a camera op or a director, a television director. And I think it's definitely worth just letting people know it, because a lot of the time you don't let people know what you want to do, because it's not natural conversations, it's kind of discussing, actually here's what I want to do, unless you're talking about it anyway. So let people know what you want to do, like just, not an in-your-face kind of thing, but if it's just in conversation, so I'd quite like to do that. And you'd be surprised that someone might hear it and say, oh, actually, I know somebody that, you know, so don't be afraid to let people know what it is you want to do career-wise, because if you keep it in there, no one's going to know, like I say, and then you won't make that leap. But it can be a fairly natural progression from theatre to film and TV, really. A lot of people started off in the theatre industry that are now on film and TV, so, yeah.
Any more questions?
My name's Jack, and I just wanted to ask a question really about when you like meet people like yourselves, you know, professionals. What's the best way of selling yourself without, you know, and navigating it in the right way, like without being too like pushy or, you know, showing your achievements? Or because to be honest with you, I was going to bring my books that I've written today, but then I thought, nah.
Why didn't you?
But when you said business cards before, I thought a book's the best business card you can get, really, isn't it? But then I thought, how do we do it in a way where, because I assume yourselves must get millions of people messaging you, pounding you, trying to get in meetings and setting things up. But when they do get a breakthrough, or when you do get 2 minutes on your break, what's the best way to sell yourself without being too like, you know what I mean, in your face, look at me, please, kind of thing. What's the best way?
I don't think you need to like be a tryhard, like in that, like, sorry. You don't need to be a tryhard in the sense that you don't have to sell yourself hard. Like, keep it casual, keep it just like, oh, hey, like, as Joanna said before, like, oh, what do you do? You know, I'm interested in getting into this. I'd love to work in your position. Like, you don't need to like be like, you need to hire me for this reason. Like, just keep it casual. I think we've all been in your positions. Like, everyone in the creative industries wants more people in the creative industries. You know, people want to help other people get to this point. Like, you know, people are always willing to help, and so you don't need to. You could just a DM, just a quick conversation, like, you know, at events like this, you know, oh, can you add me on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it is, here's my email, like, and keep the conversation going. I think that's all you need to do.
I want to second that, because a lot of the time I respond a bit better. This is a cheat sheet for you now. When it's a DM rather than a big email where it's like, dear Jamal Antonio Williams Thomas, which you've clearly got enough like researching or something. And then it's just really like a lot of words thrown in that you don't need to throw in there. Just say, all right, mate, how's it going? I respond better to that. You know what I mean? I don't think, like you said, you don't have to sort of ham it up. If you believe in your own, you know, your own skills and your own, you know, kind of that kind of thing. I think it comes across anyway. You don't. I don't think using a word like splendiferous is going to make me think, oh, that's the person I want to get in. You know, I think just being you and your personality comes through. Do you know what I mean? So I definitely prefer a DM as opposed to a big long email. You know, saying, I love your work. No, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, here's what I do. It would be nice, like, do you mind having a quick look at my things, whatever. I prefer that 100% of the time. But
I think people usually respond well if there's a specific question in it, like what to ask of the person. Is it, I don't know, that you want to get a coffee with them to find out more about their job, or is it that you're looking to get into the industry and want a bit of advice? If you're just kind of, I don't know, going in without the ask, then sometimes
that generic question as well, sorry, is where people say, oh, do you have any advice for... It's like, all right, you've got to narrow that down because we could be here all day. So in terms of like specific, you know, especially if you've taken the time to email someone, DM someone, I think having that specific focus, it's like, well, I want to be a camera operator. What would you recommend camera-wise? Or do you know, that kind of thing. More to it than just like, you got any advice? It's too broad, and I'm literally, like I said, a 2-minute break. I won't get 2-minute breaks, man. 30 seconds breaks.
Well, on that case, could you have 30 seconds with yourself?
I think on that though as well, like on the breaks point, everybody goes out and nips and gets some lunch. Everybody goes out and nips and gets a coffee. Can you just like follow them on that? Like, oh, what? No, don't be serious. Like, you know, if you're, you know, somebody's going out on the lunch break. Oh, you know, can I just, you know, go to lunch with you and just, you know,
can I grab a coffee with you?
Exactly. Yeah. Can I just chew your ear off for 5 minutes while you're doing this, that, and the other? You're probably going to get more cut through there than somebody's massive DM list or massive email list of you and 1,000 other people saying, "Have you got any advice?" Like, and you've done your research then to go and find that person. You know, so you're not just kind of like applying at will. You've identified someone and been like, I like what you do. I want to do what you do. I want to work where you work. You know, you've already gone 4 steps forward then, as opposed to just going, oh, it's first name dot surname at whatever.co.uk. Right, let's go. Like, identify that individual.
Get the names right. The amount of times that I've been called James on messages as well.
Yeah. Spell names correctly. Like a name like Tierney, you get to misspell all the time. Spell it correctly. Because otherwise, I'm not going to reply to you if you've called me Terry or something. like you've not worked, have you? Like, do your research, do it well. As Tom said, like, if you want to work in non-fiction sports publishing, find a non-fiction sports editor. Like, there's no point emailing a fiction editor because they're not going to have a clue how to help you. Like, do your research and target well, I think, is the other thing.
Just don't be hanging outside Greg's Media City trying to...
Might find me
Cheers, thank you for that.
Hello, I'm Sid. I'm an aspiring filmmaker, and when I'm looking at entry-level positions online, it seems like the vast majority of them are in London. So I'm kind of just wondering, I'm in Manchester for the next year at least, but I'm just wondering how come necessary it is to like move down to London, because that seems where a lot of opportunities are.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I kind of worms there.
I can't speak to like filmmaking, but obviously, as I said before, this is what I've experienced with publishing. Like, literally the month I got accepted onto the traineeship that I got onto at Hachette, they opened their Manchester office. Before that, I would have had to move down to London to work for a big publishing house. Otherwise, you have to work at small independent niche publishing houses. So there isn't really a straight answer. It's getting better, and there are more opportunities up north as the economy's diversifying. London's becoming too expensive. People don't want to live there. You know, companies can't afford rent down there.
Can't get a train in.
Can't get a train down there because the West Coast is not working or whatever it is. Like, you know, it's getting better, but unfortunately, try and do things online as well. You know, since COVID, there's so much stuff online available to you that you can do. You know, whatever it is, like mentoring programs, workshops. You know, creative access. There's not really an easy answer. Like, it is all down there, but there are opportunities, and it's about finding those opportunities and again doing your research. Like, find a company that has offices up here. Be pragmatic. Like, you know, don't be like, oh, I want to work for, I don't know, whoever, and they're only based in London. Like, find the companies that do have offices here and be pragmatic about it, and go, maybe down the line other opportunities will become available.
There's so many indie companies up here I think you should look into. Great one that my friend works at called Key Street Productions, little plug there for him. And also, is it Nora? BFI? Talk. Try and get some funding. But yeah, there's so many more, like, media-wise anyway, a lot of things are moving up. Obviously, Big Dog's over there, we're here. You've also got, lost my train of thought, but we'll come back. You've got Channel 4 moved up to Leeds and stuff. So even if it's not Manchester, you've got other cities like nearby. Liverpool have a few independent television companies. And again, I know you're a filmmaker, but you can still go into TV and make that kind of circle that round. So yeah, so have a chat.
Selfishly as well, like think about who you're competing with for that role. Like the talent pool in London is going to be so much greater than they are in like cities up north. So like, you know, if you like law of averages, are you gonna, if you're applying for a role up here versus applying for a role in London where there's the massive talent pool and such a wide vast range of them, just kind of think about who you're up against and where that is as well.
I think I'd just like to add to that as well. There's obviously the BBC, they've got a TV department. I got through work experience through that, and then obviously when you first start out with work experience, they probably will just give you a lot of research tasks in front of the computer. If you don't ask, you don't get. So I was able to say I want hands-on experience, and I was able to go out on location shooting with the producer. So then that can be a kind of experience like behind the camera, and then you can get experience through that. So yeah, I think just speak out.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. I think we've got time for one more question, if anyone has one. At the back.
Hi, my name's Rianne. I currently am studying neuroscience and psychology, and I feel like that's just a whole different world. I'm just wondering, you've mentioned transferable skills and stuff like that, but how do you start transferring your whole like career ideas into media, and is there a place where there is that overlap for neuroscience and media and stuff like that?
Documentary on
Educational
neuroscience.
Non-fiction publishing, like science-based publishing. Like my first thing in publishing was when I was at uni. Liverpool had a science magazine, and I just volunteered to help there. Like there are things that you can do in science that get published in the creative industries. You know, David Attenborough and science documentaries are some of the biggest in the world. Like, so there are ways in. Again, it's about being pragmatic and finding the right routes where your skills and your experience applies to the creative industry.
I don't know why it sounds a bit more difficult, that crossover, but it's doable. Again, it depends on what you want to get into specifically, I guess. But like you say, like there is room to kind of move into books, like you say, or using that knowledge you've got in that particular area to then kind of, because I guarantee you, if I go around the office that I work in and ask anyone about neuroscience, I'll draw a blank. So, you know, if they are doing things or doing productions that are based on that topic, that's where you can come in as a consultant or anything like that. So there's lots of different areas that you can work in, but that's a difficult crossover.
I don't think your degree necessarily is that the bridge in. Like I did history and politics. I'm a comms manager. It's like night and day, and you know I think I've had my time again. Would I have gone to university and done that? Would I have gone to university at all? It's still, you know, I still kind of ponder that. So I just feel like, you know, once you graduate, I wouldn't even, sounds awful to say, I wouldn't even think about your degree. I'd think about where you want to go, the industries that are out there, and then all of a sudden you can start connecting that skill set. Do you know what I mean? Like I learned to read massive amount of text very fastly and distill them down into like 200 words, you know. I can transfer that, but at the time nobody said to me, oh, you could do that and go into a creative industry. So I think, be open-minded and expansive with thinking.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the great thing about the creative industries is that most roles don't have a specific degree requirement. So, you know, a lot of the entry-level roles, they're looking for some of the same core skills. So whether that's communication skills, research skills, analysis skills, attention to detail, those are all things that you can demonstrate from a number of degrees and other experience outside of studies. So yeah, I think it doesn't normally matter what degree you do. But I think that is our last question. So I'm going to hand back to Sunny shortly to wrap up, but just wanted to say thank you all so much for listening, and also thank you to our wonderful panel. It's been so great to hear more about your journeys in. So yeah.
Wow. So I did one of these panels last year, and I was on the panel session, and this was like 100 times better. I mean, you guys are, like, I've been in the industry, you know, over 20 years, and I took so much inspiration from listening to you guys, seriously. I mean, it's amazing. So I'm hoping everybody in the room has kind of been scribbling notes down, I can see, and texting or Snapchatting or doing something. No, it's not. Okay. I was doing it in my phone too, don't worry, you know. But you know, I've got some notes here. Everyone comes in via different routes. You know, we've got swimmer to account manager. Terry here. No, sorry, Tierney. Sorry, got your name wrong. Joking. He said get the name right. He also said perseverance is key. I heard someone say jump in and worry about it later, which I thought was a great piece of advice, and it's something that I've done many times in my career. And also we talked about, you mentioned squiggly careers as well, and I've done so much at ITV. I've been a producer, I've been a researcher, I started as a trainee production coordinator, I was something called a business analyst, I was the controller for content services, and now I'm the director of the ITV Academy. So I've done a lot of different things, so don't pigeonhole yourself. You know, you might do one job and think, actually, this is something that I really want to do, even though you wanted to be something else. I wanted to be a vision mixer at ITV, and I never got to do it, but I'm okay with it. What else did I really want to know how old Jam is. Does anybody else want to know? Like, I thought he must have been in his 20s when I met him, and then I'm thinking, he's been in the industry a long time, or what? Are you going to tell us?
Am I revealing it? Can I have a couple of guesses first?
Yeah. Let's do that.
What was that? Very close.
30.
Go up. 32. Yeah, you said 35. 35. No, 32. So close. Prize goes to Nora. 32.
Well done. Yeah. He's not old. But he's done a lot of stuff in his time, right? He's got so much wisdom for one so young, as they all have.
Got good skincare.
Yeah. So just massive round of applause again for these guys. So, a couple of things that I just want to mention, a couple of good bits of news. So we have the Creative Access ITV Mentoring Program, which is now open. You heard a couple of people mention about how important mentoring is. So I would scan that QR code and, wait, let me get out of the way. Sorry. Yeah. Scan that QR code and apply. All the information is there on screen, and there's more on the Creative Access website. But that is a great thing to be a part of. I have been a mentor of that, so and I will be next year. So yeah, scan. And then the next.
The TV's about to turn.
That's what they do to keep me moving. Yeah, it's Fiona at the back doing this. Like, come on, because everybody wants to network. And the next thing, Fiona, you said that if I said the next thing, it would move on. Is this? It's the ITV Academy and Creative Access traineeship. So this is exciting news. We've only just got these roles confirmed today that we are going to be working with Coronation Street and Emmerdale to offer some traineeships next year. So you will hear more about these on our social media, on Creative Access social media, but essentially we'll be working with Creative Access to provide these traineeships. And I think, yeah, got a number of traineeships, probably about 9 or 10. They'll be live in the next few weeks. If you're interested, head on over to the Creative Access website, where there'll be more details probably in the coming weeks, but you'll see it on socials. It's a really exciting thing. Oh, okay, good night. No, seriously, thanks very much. We're open till 8, so there's networking, as John says, talk to each other. There's some food, there's some drink. If you want to visit the Coronation Street exhibit downstairs, we can have a photograph behind the rovers and that sort of stuff. That's on the floor below. We've got some event staff that can take you there. But yeah, thanks again to Creative Access for putting this on. Kasmi, I thought you were fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, still going. And a quick thanks to the AV team who are here at the back and here. Thank you very much, Errol. And thanks to you guys for coming as well. Thank you.
One final request from me before you go is just that we love running these events, and we also love getting your feedback. So hopefully when the screen goes back on, you'll see a QR code to some feedback. If not, my colleague Poppy and Bill Margia will, yeah, there we go, this sheet of paper with the QR code. So before you leave today, we'd be really grateful if you could just scan that and give us your feedback. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining, and please do network. Introduce yourself to the person next to you.